We play and call it work.
Hey folks, Janene from MiniWarGaming with a how-to video for you. In today's video, I want to show you how to do the black step in a Flesh Tearers Baal Predator. In my last video, we did the red step and we used an airbrush. In today's video, I want to show you how to do the black step with a dry brushing technique. Now, dry brushing sometimes gets a bad rap, but in my opinion, it's really useful to learn how to do it well. And it's something that I did a lot before I got my own airbrush. So make sure that you comment down below for what you'd like to see in future videos, and let's get started. Here you can see the Baal Predator after the red step's done. With the traditional Flesh Tearer color scheme, the top half of their armor is very heavily black, and I want to recreate that look on this Predator by making the front part of the tank very black. The first step is to go through and touch up all the areas of black that got red sprayed on them when we airbrushed. We're going to use Abaddon black paint, and we're going to put a couple drops of Lamian medium in it just to thin it down a little bit and get it to a good workable consistency. I'm going to make sure that I paint all of the smokestacks. I'm going to get the panel up front that goes up and over the top with the hatches in it. I'm also going to get anywhere that I'm going to do metal later on, just because it's going to save me time and give me a better base to work with for the metal color rather than a red. Now, of course, painting black over red is a lot easier than the other way around. Black is darker than every other color, so it goes on a lot easier. Now, part of the reason why I decided not to tape these areas off when I was doing the airbrushing step is because it's easier for me to just take my brush and run it along the line of the tank itself. I find the process of taping off large areas particularly laborious, so I avoid it if I can. Here I'm painting these back vents black because, again, I'm going to do silver over this. Now, one thing I've noticed when painting areas like these vents, things that have lots of little lines in them, is sometimes you get bubbles in your paint. And sometimes the paint doesn't want to go in the cracks. It's like the surface tension of the paint's actually fighting with the shape of the model. If you're having that problem, then make sure that you've got your paint to a good thin consistency so it's very workable, and then you can also pop the bubbles very quickly by blowing on them real quick. That's something that I find effective. So here's all the black. You can see all the areas where I got it. Since this is a magnetized tank, I went through and made sure to get all of the magnetized pieces to it as well. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start our dry brush, and we're going to use the Fang to do this. Since this is a dry brush, I'm not going to thin my paint out. I'm going to paint it straight out of the pot. So here's Janene's theory on how to do a good dry brush. First off, you want to run your thumb through the bristles of your brush to make sure that it's nice and soft and you don't have any clumps. The brushes that we use for dry brushing tend to be a little bit thrashed, and mine are no exception, but if you have clumps of dried paint in your brush, the paint's going to collect around them and you're going to get streaks. My second tip is to make sure that you take almost all of the paint off your brush. If you watch me dry brush, a lot of paint doesn't come off on the first time I stroke the brush. I'm going over and over and over the same area again and again and again, and I'm trying to catch the ledges, but I'm building the paint up slowly. And that's not going to work if you have a lot of paint on your brush. If you put the brush on the model and it immediately leaves a big splotch of paint, it's going to be very difficult for you to get a smooth blending with your dry brush. You want it to come off very gradually, and you want to have to go over the same area multiple times in order to build up that color. That's going to give you the control that you need to make a very smooth transition between colors. If you do it this way, then not only are you going to be able to get a really nice edge highlight with dry brushing by catching the edges, but you're also going to be able to create some smooth transitions in the flat areas of your model. And this is another reason why it's a good idea to never throw away your brushes, because even if they're not good for basic painting, you can always use them as a dry brush. And it's never a problem to have too many dry brushes, because when you're dry brushing a large section of something, anytime you need to put your paint in water, it's no longer a dry brush, so you have to switch to another one. So in my opinion, you should have as many dry brushes as possible. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the Fang, we're going to thin it down with a few drops of Lamian medium, and we're going to use it as an edge highlight. So since we dry brushed this color on before, it's not going to be as bright as it would be if we were going to paint it. So we're going to go through, and on the edges, we're going to actually paint it onto the model and make sure that we get a little bit of pop. Now I'm a big fan of letting the model do the work for me if I can. So in this instance, I'm going to use the side of my brush and run it along the edges. It will make it much quicker than trying to do it all with the very tip of the brush. It's going to require a whole lot less control. I'm going through and I'm highlighting every edge on this. Doing so is really going to help blend everything together. Alright, we're going to do another edge highlight in the corners, and we're going to do this by getting some white, some ceramite white. We're going to mix that with some Lamian medium, and then we're going to mix the fang and the white together, about a 50-50 mixture. This is going to give us a really light grayish blue color, and we're going to use that color to line the very edges and corners. This is going to make those edges pop, and we really want to hit the areas where the light would catch it. I'm also making sure that I look at the cohesive whole of it, and I'm finding areas that I feel like are a little bit lackluster, and I'm hitting them with an extra level of highlight just to make sure that they're interesting as well. Now for the purposes of this video, I'm doing my best to make sure that I keep everything on camera, but I'll be completely honest, when I'm just painting on my own, I am turning this tank upside down and in every which way I can to make sure that I have the easiest access to those edges so I can do the highlight as easily as possible. Alright, here you can see the whole tank together. Since we used the same highlighting style for both sections of the tank, they blend together very well, even though one of them was airbrushed and one of them was dry brushed. I also gave myself a really good starting place for when I move on to the metal. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more how-to videos, I have another one where I take you through how to do the metal step on this Baal Predator in the MiniWarGaming Vault in the link down below in the description. If you don't have a Vault membership, go ahead and click the link and you can get a 7-day free trial and get access to my tutorial as well as hundreds of other videos in the MiniWarGaming Vault. Go ahead and click the link, and happy wargaming!